2020 was what they like to refer to in the scientific community as a complete and total mess. Hi, I'm Lorenzo, and I like to explain things. So, 2020, I think we could all agree, was a pretty amazing year. We cured cancer, we fixed climate change pretty much, and we're only about one step away from... Nah, I'm just playing. 2020 was a lot. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look back and see real quick. Okay, but seriously though, 2020 was what they like to refer to in the scientific community as a complete and total mess. But for those of us that are optimistic, probably on the wrong hand, that this year might not be 2020 2.0, that can only mean one thing: New Year's resolutions. Yep, New Year's resolutions. Those promises you make to yourself at the beginning of the year about how you'll eat healthier, exercise more, brush up on your Italian, rob a bank. Maybe not that last one. Assuming by the time this video is uploaded, we haven't already discovered solid evidence that 2021 is really just the S edition of 2020, you might have some things that you might want to do better this year. So what's up with New Year's resolutions exactly? Whose bright idea were they? Does anyone ever actually succeed? And better yet, is there anything you can do to actually do a better job at yours? All that and more, coming up next. The tradition of people promising, and often failing soon after, to do better in the following year goes as far back as 4,000 years ago, starting with the ancient Babylonians. During a 12-day New Year festival called Akitu, the Babylonian people would either crown a new king or pledge their loyalty to the current one, depending of course on if the gods deemed him worthy of keeping his title. Now, considering that a big part of the test of his worthiness was naturally slapping him as hard as possible to try and make him cry, I'm guessing things would only get worse for him if he failed to earn his title back. At the same time, common people made promises to the gods that they'd return what they'd borrowed from others and pay their debts. And considering how their gods tested their kings, you probably wanted to follow through on those promises as a commoner. Later on in ancient Rome, the Romans marked the beginning of their year by making sacrifices and promises of good behavior to the two-faced god Janus. No, not in that kind of way. Like, he literally had two faces, allowing him to look both ways and see the past and the future. Bit of a weird flex, but I'm not gonna judge it. In more recent times, it became a Christian tradition at watch night services on New Year's for people to make vows of improvement for the new year, and that led us to the non-religious practices we have, and often forget after a few weeks, today. So New Year's resolutions have been with us for a long time now. But for most of us, they're just these vague general promises that you set at the start of the year, boast about for 2 weeks, halfway doing the third week, and then forget about / give up on by the end of the month. Most resolutions people set have something to do with either the areas of becoming more fit, eating healthier, learning a new skill, or kicking a bad habit. So a 2007 study by ironically named wise guy Richard Wiseman found that 88% of people who set New Year's resolutions end up failing, even though about half of them were confident they could actually pull it off. So as depressing as that might sound, it's actually leading up to some light at the end of the tunnel. You see, the thing about it is, most people usually fail because they have this habit of setting goals they know they can't pull off. They don't keep track of their progress to see if they're improving, forget about said goals until the end of the year, or they just make too many goals and then, inevitably, they get overwhelmed by them. But once they start getting smart about how they set their goals, things start to change. Okay now, so what's the secret sauce to not hitting the old snooze button on your resolutions? The thing is, you gotta get smart. Smart. That's better. Okay, so to make this whole process just a little bit easier, I'll put myself into a little bit of a hypothetical, oddly specific example, just to help you out. So, let's suppose for a second that I like editing videos, I like to learn and read up on a lot of different areas and subjects that I sometimes share with my friends, who often end up, of course, giving me this look. And then, of course, let's say that often enough, my friends tell me, Lorenzo, you're kind of funny sometimes, that I start to suspect that it might just be true. And of course, naturally, one day I decided, let me roll the three of those together, and as a New Year's resolution, I'll start a YouTube channel based on that same thing. Little bit on the nose, but let's just see where this example goes if I throw in some SMART goals. Alright, so putting all the goals together in my hypothetical example, let's say my resolution is to make a channel that takes a not so serious look at different areas like psychology, pop culture, science, and the occasional movie and TV series explainer for the people too lazy to check out what their friends keep trying to force them to watch. I set a goal to upload twice a month and modify based on if the process gets easier. I'll look at relevance and if it's worth it, and I'll say if the channel takes off and it gets monetized and I have the opportunity to say this video was sponsored by Audible, it'll definitely be worth the effort. And if the channel doesn't take off, then I still had some fun and learned some video editing and voiceover skills I could possibly roll over into freelance next year. So yeah, definitely still worth it. And to cap it all off, I'd put a deadline for reevaluating things at the end of the year. Sounds like a pretty smart idea, huh? And you know what? This example wouldn't be complete if I left the hypothetical channel unnamed. So I think I'd call it something catchy like Lorenzo Explains. Oh, hi, how's it going? So, you made it this far. I hope you know what that means. You have a chance to like and subscribe now, because clearly if you made it this far, something good must have been going on. Or you were just really bored. But in either case, let's go on this little journey together, Watch me improve my editing techniques, make normal facial expressions in the camera, because it's really hard when you're just starting out. And explore different, exciting, not so serious topics together.